Recap. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Dao, Chapter 943. Chapter Translator, Hen Yi Translations. Editor, Hen Yi Translations. A sudden cry shattered the tense stillness of the gathering crowd. The Heavenly Sea Mystery Realm is about to open. At that single declaration, countless heads snapped upward as if pulled by an invisible thread. Even Ling Han, who had witnessed countless strange phenomena in his life, could not resist lifting his gaze toward the heavens. And what he saw caused even his steady heart to tremble. The sky, which only moments ago had been vast, serene, and painted in tranquil blue, was now violently torn apart, as though some ancient hand had ripped open the fabric of the heavens. Beyond that rupture, a boundless ocean revealed itself. It was a sea, suspended in the sky. No horizon could be seen, no boundary discerned. Waves surged with terrifying ferocity, each crest carrying an overwhelming divine sense that pressed down upon all who dared to look. Just a single glance was enough to make one's soul quiver, as though standing before an existence far beyond mortal comprehension. Then, Hong, long, long, the very earth beneath their feet responded. The desolate plains split apart with a deafening roar, cracking open like a wounded beast. From that gaping chasm, a colossal tunnel was revealed, dark and profound, as if leading into the depths of the world itself. In the next instant, a pillar of water erupted from within. But this was no ordinary torrent. The water did not fall, it rose. Like a reversed waterfall defying all laws of nature, the surging stream shot upward into the heavens, its currents twisting violently as it connected the earth below with the celestial sea above. The two realms, heaven and ground, were now linked by this impossible river. Endless waves surged upward against gravity, roaring like thunder. The sound engulfed everything, drowning out all other noise. Even if someone shouted with all their strength, their own voice would not reach their ears. Ling Han stood amidst the chaos, his eyes wide with astonishment. This was truly beyond imagination, a sea hung in the sky, so vast it felt as though if it descended, it could swallow the entire Joint Peace Planet in a single breath. And yet, from the depths below, water defied the natural order, climbing upward to feed that celestial ocean. Only now did Ling Han truly understand why it was called the Heavenly Sea Mystery Realm. This was no mere title. It was reality itself. With sound rendered useless by the thunder of waves, the gathered cultivators could only rely on divine sense to communicate, their thoughts echoing silently between one another. "That is the Heavenly Sea," Lin Yu transmitted, his tone heavy with awe and caution. "No one can fly above it to see it clearly. There are no living beings within, and it has no end." He paused briefly before continuing, as if recalling a distant and terrifying memory. Once, an elite of the Heavenly Body Tier piloted a galaxy-level warship into that sea. But when a single wave struck, the entire ship shattered into fragments. Even his spirit did not escape in time. He was annihilated, body and soul, without resistance. A chill spread through the hearts of all who heard. The Heavenly Body Tier, on the Joint Peace Planet, that was synonymous with invincibility. And yet even such an existence had been reduced to nothingness in that sea. From that moment onward, the Heavenly Sea had become an absolute forbidden zone. "Look! There's something there!" Suddenly, someone pointed toward the reversed waterfall that bridged heaven and earth. Ling Han narrowed his gaze and followed the direction. Within the raging torrent, something flickered, a faint white glimmer moving amidst the violent current. Yet its form was indistinct, difficult to make out with the naked eye. The sight alone was enough to shake one's understanding. A waterfall flowing upward was already a phenomenon that defied logic, but now, within that very torrent, there existed an object that was descending against the current. It was an impossibility layered upon another impossibility. Ling Han activated the Eye of Truth. His vision sharpened, piercing through the chaotic currents until the blurred image became clear. "It's metal," he murmured inwardly. "A piece of white-colored metal." Exclamations erupted through divine sense, one after another. Heavens! The waves there can crush a galaxy-level warship and obliterate a Heavenly Body Tier elite, yet that piece of metal remains intact. It must be incredibly heavy. Otherwise, how could it descend against the upward flow of the water? A top-grade godly metal. It has to be. Only such a material could withstand the destructive force of the Heavenly Sea. If it can endure that, then what power in this world could destroy it? Even the great figures present, those standing at the pinnacle of the heavenly body tier, could not conceal their astonishment. Something capable of moving even them, its value was beyond estimation. In that instant, countless eyes burned with greed and desire. Everyone understood the same truth. If that piece of godly metal continued its descent, where would it fall? Into the heavenly sea mystery realm below. This was not the sea in the sky. That place was certain death, even for the strongest cultivators. The true mystery realm lay beneath the earth, only revealed when the heavenly sea manifested. Otherwise, even if one dug through the entire planet, they would never uncover its existence. Ling Han felt his heartbeat quicken. Top-grade godly metal. Who could resist such a treasure? Others might lack the means to refine it, but he possessed the Black Tower. He could not help but ask within his mind, "Small Tower, can you refine it?" "I haven't seen it. How would I know?" Small Tower snorted arrogantly. "But if it is godly metal, then it's nothing difficult." Ling Han immediately caught the hidden meaning. "So there are materials even stronger than godly metal? Something even you might struggle with?" "Of course," Small Tower replied, its tone carrying a hint of pride. "Think about it. What material was I forged from?" Ling Han's curiosity flared. "Then tell me, what was it?" "Divine metal." This time, Small Tower did not evade the question. Above godly metal lies divine metal. Godly metal has many grades, but divine metal is absolute. It either is or it isn't. Its voice lowered slightly, as though speaking of something ancient and profound. Every piece of divine metal possesses its own consciousness and immense power, according to legend. Hehe, you'll understand when you obtain one yourself. And just like that, it fell silent again, leaving Ling Han hanging. While their conversation unfolded within his mind, the white metal had already descended through the torrent and vanished into the depths below. The heavenly sea mystery realm is open. Enter now. If you don't go now, when will you? You must seize that piece of godly metal. Whoever retrieves it for me will be richly rewarded. The great figures called out urgently, their voices filled with impatience and desire. Unable to enter the mystery realm themselves, they could only rely on the younger generation. But all understood. That single piece of metal would ignite a storm of bloodshed. "Let's go." Ling Han grasped Shui Yanyu's hand firmly. If they entered separately, they would be scattered across different locations within the realm. "Blockhead, wait for me!" Li Weiwei's voice chased after them. Yet just as she moved forward, Tang Feng stepped into her path. "Fourth young miss," he said, clearly intending to keep her from joining Ling Han. "Damn it!" Li Weiwei snapped, her temper flaring. She struck out with her palm. Ordinarily, such an attack posed no threat to Tang Feng, but the moment her palm moved, the bracelet on her wrist erupted with dazzling light. Peng! Tang Feng was blasted backward, blood spraying from his mouth. His eyes widened in shock. A god tool, and not just any god tool. It had clearly been refined multiple times by the left minister. Because of their bloodline connection, Li Wei could activate its hidden power, even at her current cultivation level. Meanwhile, Ling Han held tightly to Shui Yanyu as they plunged into the torrent. Hong! The thunder of water crashed around them, deafening and relentless. The waves here were immense, but unlike the heavenly sea above, they contained no divine patterns. Thus, while they could not instantly kill shattering void tier cultivators, they still carried tremendous force, enough to make the unprepared vomit blood endlessly. But the greatest challenge was not the impact, it was the direction. The water surged upward, against nature itself, while the entrance to the mystery realm lay below. To advance, one had to resist this opposing force. Otherwise, they would never reach the realm at all. Ling Han unleashed his power. The strength of 20 stars erupted from within him, his body blazing with force as he moved against the current, as if walking on solid ground. His physique, honed to an extraordinary level, rendered the crashing waves little more than a vigorous massage. "Your speed is too slow," Shui Yanyu transmitted via divine sense. "Enter your spatial god tool. I'll take you in." Ling Han could only smile bitterly. The Black Tower was his greatest secret. It resided within his Dancian, hidden beyond detection. If he entered it, it would shrink to the size of a mustard seed, completely invisible. If he disappeared like that, how could Shui Yanyu possibly carry him? He could not reveal it. "Ho ho," he replied lightly, masking his thoughts. "Since you're so powerful, why not bring me along directly? My body is tough enough. No matter how fast you go, this water won't harm me. There was no way he could explain the truth. Shui Yanyu said nothing further. She turned, grasped his wrist firmly, and in the next instant, her figure surged forward, accelerating through the raging torrent like a streak of light, carrying Ling Han deeper toward the hidden realm below. In the endless expanse of the heavenly sea, where the tides roared like ancient dragons and the currents struck with the fury of collapsing heavens, two figures pressed forward against the wrath of nature itself. Ling Han knew the truth clearly in his heart, though his body had already reached a terrifying level of resilience. Comparable to those who had stepped into the mountain river tier, his overall cultivation still lagged far behind that realm. His defenses could endure, but in every other aspect, he remained a mortal challenger, standing before a divine threshold. At that moment, Shui Yanyu unleashed her power. Her origin power surged like a hidden current beneath the sea, pushing them forward with a sudden burst of speed. In an instant, their pace multiplied more than tenfold, cutting through the violent waters like twin blades slicing across a raging tide. Yet the sea was no simple adversary. The currents here seemed alive, responding differently to each cultivator's strength. Ling Han felt almost nothing, as though the water parted for him. But Shui Yanyu, despite her strength, was visibly straining. Her brows tightened, her breathing grew heavier, and before long, their speed faltered once more. Ling Han's gaze sharpened. "Let me take the lead," he said calmly, his voice steady like an immovable mountain. Without waiting, he stepped forward, pulling Shui Yanyu along with him. Now, she only needed to circulate her origin power inward, strengthening her defenses and enhancing her body. Rather than battling the currents head-on, the pressure on her lessened immediately, like a heavy burden being lifted from her shoulders. Ling Han advanced step by step. He did not rush. Each movement was firm, grounded, unshakable, like a sovereign walking through a storm without bowing his head. Though his speed was not explosive, it was unwavering. And in the end, that steadiness made him nearly as fast as Shui Yanyu had been at her peak. As he moved, his mind calculated. The force of these waves, it had already reached the level of 16 stars in the Shattering Void tier. Even those who stood at 20 stars, the absolute peak of that realm, would struggle to endure such endless pressure. After all, the waves did not cease. They struck again and again, without pause, without mercy. And worst of all, there was no way to fight back. The sea could not be challenged, only endured. Moreover, this force adjusted itself depending on one's cultivation. Otherwise, the great elites of the heavenly body tier could have easily escorted everyone straight to the entrance. But if those supreme beings entered here, they might not simply struggle. They might be crushed outright. Thus, in this place, true advantage did not lie in cultivation alone, but in battle prowess within the same realm. Ling Han's lips curved faintly. His power had already reached the full 20 stars of the Shattering Void tier, the absolute pinnacle, the true limit of that stage. Combined with a physique tempered like divine metal, he stood here like an invincible existence. For a fleeting moment, a dangerous thought crossed his mind. What if he hid here, waiting to ambush others? He considered it carefully. In the mystery realm, bloodshed was common because there were no witnesses, no bodies, no evidence, no accusations. Death came silently, and justice never followed. But here, it was different. Every cultivator had to pass through this place. If he struck, countless eyes would witness it. Killing an academy student or the descendant of an official in broad daylight, that was a grave crime within the chaotic star's majestic empire. And besides, success was not guaranteed. Those who entered this realm all carried life-saving treasures. No one came unprepared. Ling Han shook his head, casting aside the temptation like dust in the wind. He tightened his grip on Shui Yanyu's hand and continued forward. Though they had started later than the others, his steady advance allowed them to overtake one cultivator after another. His pace was not fast, but it was relentless, like a river carving through stone over time. Along the way, even those in the mountain river tier could only watch as he passed them. Some felt humiliated, but none dared to act. Here, most of their origin power was already devoted to resisting the crushing force of the water. To divert even a fraction of it into battle would be equivalent to courting death. Time passed, After nearly 2 hours of relentless advance, Ling Han finally brought Shui Yanyu to the very bottom of the sea. Before them stood a gate. It was not merely a gate, it was a colossal monument, rising 300 meters high, like a boundary between worlds. The stone doors were etched with countless beastly forms, creatures unknown to Ling Han, their shapes ancient and ferocious. Though carved from stone, they seemed alive. An invisible aura radiated from them, vast and oppressive, as though these beasts could awaken at any moment and devour the heavens themselves. Above the lintel, a stone dragon coiled majestically, its body twisted with lifelike detail, its scales vivid, its posture tense, as if it could break free at any moment and soar into the endless skies. Ling Han felt a trace of regret. Along the way, he had not seen that mysterious piece of godly metal again. Otherwise, he could have simply reached out and claimed it. "Let's go," he said. Together, they stepped through the stone entrance. At once, a strange force enveloped them, an invisible pull that threatened to tear them apart, to scatter them into nothingness. Instinctively, they tightened their grip on each other, refusing to be separated. Then, peng! Peng! They were thrown onto solid ground. The world had changed. No longer were they surrounded by water. The suffocating pressure had vanished, replaced by a vast and unfamiliar landscape. "Let go!" Shui Yanyu snapped, rolling her eyes dramatically. Ling Han released her hand with a faint smile, though a trace of emotion stirred within him. Before he had seen the Empress of the Chaotic Star's majestic empire, Shui Yanyu's every movement had seemed enchanting, filled with irresistible charm. But now, compared to that unparalleled sovereign, she lacked a certain boundless grace. Still, she remained as beautiful as ever. He asked casually, "Where do we go from here?" Shui Yanyu gathered her thoughts. This was only her second time here. Her first visit had been 10 years ago, when she was finally strong enough to enter. Before that, she had been too young, her abilities insufficient, and her clan had forbidden her from risking her life. "Every time we enter, we appear at random locations on the outskirts of the mystery realm," she explained. "The deeper we go toward the core, the higher the chances of finding Mountain River stones." "And that piece of godly metal," Ling Han added immediately, his mind still fixated on it. Even if it was not true divine metal, anything that could withstand the terrifying force of the heavenly sea was extraordinary. At the very least, a level 13 godly metal. Shu Yanyu could only shake her head. "Nothing like that has ever appeared before," she said. "If it was swept in randomly, it could be anywhere along the outer regions. We might not even have time to search the entire perimeter, and even if we did, someone else could have already taken it." Her reasoning was flawless. Ling Han sighed softly. Then he could only hope that such a treasure would gravitate toward the core. He turned his gaze to their surroundings. The land here was strange, unnaturally so. Everything was bathed in a crimson glow, as though the earth itself had been stained with ancient blood. The terrain stretched into a vast plain, yet distant hills rose like jagged blades, pierced through with stone spikes that thrust toward the sky. Above them, a crimson mist drifted endlessly. It obscured everything. Neither their eyes nor their divine senses could penetrate it. Then, a roar. "Ang!" It echoed across the land, shaking the ground beneath their feet. Pebbles leapt into the air as the very earth trembled. This was no lifeless wasteland. On the contrary, danger lurked everywhere. The native demonic beasts here were numerous and powerful. Most stood at the low extreme of the mountain river tier, but some had reached the mid or even high extremes. If one encountered a beast at the late stage of the high extreme, even a 4-star genius would have no choice but to retreat. Shui Yanyu observed carefully, then exhaled in relief. "Fortunately, this one is only at the low extreme," she said, her eyes igniting with fighting spirit. "We can take it on." Here, hunting demonic beasts was just as important as seeking treasures. The flesh of immortal-level beasts was rich with energy. Though slightly inferior to rare divine herbs, it surpassed most alchemical pills. However, outside this realm, such beasts had long been hunted nearly to extinction. Only in remote, uninhabited mountains could they still be found, and those that remained were terrifyingly strong. The mystery realm was different. Because of its limited opening time, restricted entry, and capped cultivation levels, the balance of its ecosystem remained intact. "Where there are demonic beasts, there are often mountain river stones," Shui Yanyu added. Ling Han raised a brow. Then why don't these beasts refine the stones themselves? Shui Yanyu shook her head. They probably can't, she said. Otherwise, after all these years, nothing would be left. Ling Han nodded. He had already reached the peak of the Shattering Void tier. The threshold to the Mountain River tier lay before him. What he needed now was a final push. Mountain River stones could grant him that. Without hesitation, the two moved toward the source of the roar. Soon, a massive boulder came into view, and there a demonic beast. It resembled a water buffalo, yet far more fearsome. Its body radiated raw power as it feasted upon the corpse of an 8-legged black deer, tearing flesh with savage delight. Suddenly, it stopped. Its head lifted. It had sensed them. Slowly, it turned. On its forehead, a single silver horn gleamed, cold and sharp like forged steel, radiating a chilling metallic light as its gaze locked onto Ling Han and Shui Yanyu. A battle was about to begin.